Well, guys, look who's here.
Hey there.
Random guy in my house. If you guys don't know, this is John Flickinger from the Flick Pick channel, and he's visiting this weekend because I'm getting married.
Yes, and I will be in the audience attending.
Holy crap. Tusk is directed by Kevin Smith, written by Kevin Smith, and as far as I know, it started as a podcast idea. They were on their podcast, and they just this would be a crazy idea, and it ended up being a movie.
Yeah, that's how it started, and I would say there's probably like a little seed of human centipede in Kevin Smith's brain when he was writing the movie.
Entirely possible, too.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's probably the closest thing that you can think to relate to this plot, which is a podcaster is going to meet this older man who he thinks has interesting stories to tell because he's lost in Canada, and his guy that he went to visit didn't work out for various reasons. And so he decides, you know what, let's just listen to this guy tell stories. And it turns out this guy's pretty much a lunatic who wants to turn Justin Long into a walrus.
Yes, and by walrus, and I said it once, I'm going to say it again, a big giant ball of baloney. When you see the walrus for the first time, it's a little bit scary and it's a little bit off-putting, but it's one of the coolest things I've seen in a horror-esque type movie in a long time that I actually was off-putting to the point where I was a little bit disgusted, but I couldn't stop looking at it.
Yeah, it's weird because I like Kevin Smith. I do like him. I almost like him as a person, as a podcaster, as an entertainer more than I do as a filmmaker. And I think you agree with me on that.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I was interested in this movie because it just seems so different. I mean, yes, it has similarities to certain other films in regards to its tone and its general idea of a guy torturing somebody, but there is no other movie out there like this at all. There's no other movie where a guy gets, where this guy's like, I just love walruses so much, I want to turn somebody into one. It doesn't happen.
But I think this movie, after watching it, cinematography, the story, the writing, and the overall tone of it, I think this is Kevin Smith's best movie, and this shows that he can actually direct a movie, even though he says he's not a very good director. I think he has talent. I
actually would agree with you that this is his best movie. I have not seen every one of his films, but I've seen the staples where people are like, that's Kevin Smith's best this or that. This is probably the most entertaining movie of his I've seen, and it also looks really good. It does have a really good visual look to it. The cinematography was really good, and I thought Justin Long was actually really good in the movie.
I love Justin Long. Why isn't that guy in more movies, bigger roles? I mean, besides Die Hard 4,
yeah,
he plays the
Jeepers
sidekick.
Creepers.
Yeah, another movie where he basically gets cut apart and stitched back together.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, I really like this movie, actually. I was surprised how much I liked it. Because it starts out, and it's definitely a comedy. It has horror comedy aspects to it. It understands how absurd it is. It understands how crazy it's getting. And it understands how batshit nuts it is. But at the same time, it's got this really disturbing vibe to it where it's on borderline on, am I supposed to be laughing right now or am I supposed to be horrified right now?
Yeah, am I supposed to be cringing or smiling? And that's one thing I really think Kevin Smith got right in this movie. The tone, the horror vibe and the comedy vibe blended so well together where you really got lost in between the two, like you said. And that's the thing about this movie. I haven't seen a horror film that was scary and a thriller that made you laugh as much, especially for the first 45 minutes of this movie. It's probably one of the funniest comedies I've seen all year and one of the scariest movies I've seen all year. Not necessarily scary, but
not I don't want to look, but definitely off-putting.
Yeah.
It's like that. Like you said bologna, and I don't ever want any bologna sandwich now. I'm done with bologna now.
As long as there's no mayonnaise.
Oh, God.
Haley Joel Osment?
Haley,
I don't see, that's how much I don't like this kid. I hated this kid. I don't know why. Every time I've looked into his eyes, I just wanted to just take my hand and squeeze his neck and just let go right before he's about to pass out. But when he first appeared in this movie, and he's in this movie, I was like, is that the walrus? In all honesty, I thought he did good, and at first I didn't like him, but after a few scenes I was like, wow, where has this kid been for the last 15 years?
In obscurity, because his first big role ever was an Oscar-nominated child performance. So after that happens, it's like, where else do you go but star in Pay It Forward with Kevin Spacey?
Or much like other child actors get a cocaine addiction.
Right, or Secondhand Lions with Robert Duvall. His face is the same. He still looks like a 9-year-old right here.
Yeah.
But this part of his body is 45.
It just expanded in odd different directions. Hang on, is this Captain Kirk?
Yes. Michael Parks plays the old guy in the movie who is obsessed with turning Justin Long into a walrus, and I thought he was really good. There's a couple of times where he kind of mumbles his dialogue where I didn't understand what he was saying, but I was genuinely creeped out by that guy by the end of the movie.
Yeah, he was in another Kevin Smith movie called Red State, and he kind of has the same creepy old man, sadistic tones going on where he's just literally insane, and he's not aware of it. And he kind of has like a Hannibal Lecter-esque vibe. He's very intelligent, very articulate.
And the movie also goes for like a non-linear structure sometimes, where it'll show the current thing that's happening, and then it'll cut back to like a few days later, and you learn some bit of information that helps you understand the next scene more.
For me, that was where the pacing issues kind of started, because I thought some of the flashbacks, though they were necessary, some other ones just went on way too long, and they weren't necessary whatsoever to the plot. And they kind of made the third act of the movie just go to a halt.
I can see why you'd say that, and I think the thing that will probably turn people off the most about this movie is it's just so different. Like, if you go to this movie like, oh, I'm going to see a crazy, scary movie, it's very different. Like, it's very self-aware, but it's so different that I think your average audience member is just going to be like, this is really dumb. Why am I watching this?
Me and you love movies. We're aware of the dumb bullshit that can happen in movies.
Sure.
But there's even scenes in this movie where we looked at each other and we're like, shit.
And I like that. Like, there was a little bit of a Quentin Tarantino thing going on there.
Yeah, and speaking of Tarantino, you know this too, but they actually originally wanted Quentin Tarantino for the big cameo role, which we're not going to spoil, but it was probably one of the funniest things about the movie.
I loved it. All I say is that when this person came on screen, it took me about 30 seconds, and then I went, oh my gosh, that is him. Because he has like all this crazy like get up and makeup on, and it was more than a cameo. It was like a good 20-25 minutes he was in the movie, and he was actually one of my favorite parts of the movie. I can imagine like these actors getting the script. I'm not going to spoil what it is, but for like a certain thing that happens towards the end, a confrontation, that's what I'll call it.
Yeah.
In the script, you're like, huh? That's what I have to do? But it just kind of worked, because the whole movie was so freaking nuts that like everything else just kind of, I was like, okay, that's another weird thing. And it also looked really good. Like, it just looked really good. And that's one of the things that helped me like it more too.
The prosthetics of the walrus suit were phenomenal. I haven't seen anything more creepy on a screen in a long time.
Yeah.
There's times where you just get immersed into it and you're like, okay,
Yeah.
I can buy this. But then they just go a little bit too far towards the third act of the movie.
I understand why you say that, and I kind of agree with you for the most part, but there was one line that a character said that I was like, okay, that's kind of profound. Like, I like that. But yes, overall, the one bit of the ending was kind of like, is this so bad that it's hilarious, or is this just bad? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Overall, though, I was surprised by Tusk. And I would say I'd give it a solid B+. I mean, it's not a bad movie at all. It does have some lagging parts, like John said. And unless you buy into the plot, you're going to hate this movie. Like, you will hate it unless you buy into the plot and where it goes.
I would probably give this movie a solid B. And I think if you're a fan of movies like Human Centipede, I think you're going to have to love this movie. And I think you might even like this movie more because it's a little bit more entertaining. There's more of an interest in the characters, and it seems like the characters kind of take a front row seat rather than just, hey, this is sick and disgusting, even though that's all in the movie. There's character development, and I like that. And as far as Kevin Smith goes, the guy's directed some bad movies, but this movie overall, it almost looks like it's from a completely different director.
Yeah.
And it's just a fun movie that blends all these different genres and vibes together, comedy and horror and thriller and gross, weird, creepy shit, all into a ball, a meaty ball, a human walrus ball, and you want to put it in your mouth and take a little bite of it, and it's like, it's too salty. You set it back down, and that's what Tusk is.
I don't want to take a bite of it, but I agree with you.
Fair enough.
I didn't stay for all of the end credits, but I didn't hear the Beatles' I Am the Walrus song.
Oh, maybe they just couldn't afford the rights
yeah,
to it.
that's probably exactly what it was. It's probably like half their budget would have gone to that song.
Yeah.
I was like, where's that song? That'd be perfect.
And this suit could have went very wrong very quickly. I mean, it could have looked like a big ball sack or a human walrus.
I would say it was a combination of both.
Yeah, and I was okay with that.
Yeah, ball sacks.
I'm a human walrus!
I want to let you guys know that this weekend I'm going to have some of my other reviews, like for A Walk Among the Tombstones. It's going to be like on Sunday because I'm kind of getting married. And so I'm going to be a little busy. I got this up. We worked on this. We saw it tonight, and we wanted to get something out to you guys, even though I'm going to be super busy this weekend. That being said, check out John's channel at The Flick Pick. That's youtube.com/The Flick Pick. And his second channel, youtube.com/John Flickster, because he wants to overwork himself. I don't know. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. And if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmanized.
Ah.